What up, everybody? YouTube Live. This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. Hmm, got my Polar Pop for the day, and I think that will suffice. I'm not gonna get one again in the evening. I am here to give you my review of today's Doom Patrol Season 1, all new episode 14. Oh my god, this show is almost over. I mean, this season 1 is almost over. Of course, the show has been renewed for second season, so I'm glad, I'm happy. But we're gonna have to wait a while for until season 1. Until season 2 arrives, whenever that is, because after next Friday, the Friday after next, yeah, I love that movie. That's Ice Cube movie, right? The Friday after next, May 31st, will be the premiere of Swamp Thing. And then in the fall, uh, or after the summer's over, I think, I think Titans season 2. So yeah, can't wait, can't wait. So let's get right to it. Just a heads up, this review will contain spoilers. I'll be spilling some spoilers, giving you context, and then give you my thoughts about what happens in this episode, and also a bit of a recap of last week's episode as a fresh penultimate patrol. Penultimate, I think it means second to last. This show's sense of humor is they come across Flex Mentalo, and last week's episode ended up with Flex Mentalo finally regaining his memory after seeing his wife again, Dolores. But sadly, freaking Bureau of Normalcy, man, they're so vicious. So they set it up in a way that if Dolores ever met Flex Mentalo ever again, um, this thing can be activated where she would die. She would just evaporate. And that's what happened last week. She basically she pulled an Avengers Infinity War ending on Flex Mentalo. You catch my drift. She's like, oh, dusted away. And Flex Mentalo flexed his muscles and got angry. So by the end of last week's episode, our heroes, Larry Trainer, aka Negative Man, Crazy Jane, Rita Farr, aka Elastic Girl, and Cliff Steele, aka Robot Man, were more determined than ever that, you know what, we gotta find Chief, we gotta defeat this Mr. Nobody. So I know they've said that before in the past, but in the previous episodes, sometimes they didn't mean it, or some of them will be like half-heartedly about it, or some of them will be distracted because, oh, I gotta go find my daughter, or I gotta look up my old boyfriend, whatever, right? So last week is like, you know, all for one for all, let's do this. And so it leads us to this episode. Flex Mentalo joins them on the bus, that iconic bus, and they meet Danny the Street again. Love Danny the Street. Fascinating character. He's basically just a street, and he would talk, through street signs or jumbotron or smoke, whatever. And so they come across Danny the Street again, and apparently Danny the Street has history with Flex Mentalo because Flex Mentalo was from the past. So we didn't see that, but in this one, it seems like they have history because Danny asks Flex, like, "How's your wife doing?" And Flex starts crying. It's like, "Oh, Dolores is gone," and starts hugging that floaty thingy that you see at uh, the car dealerships. God, I can't remember the name of it. Um, okay, so they ambush the beard hunter, who's no longer the beard hunter anymore. I don't know why. And then Danny the Street spills the beans that he said, like, hey, I know where Niles is. I know where the chief is. And Chief is in the white space. Now, again, guys, I did not grow up reading Doom Patrol comic books. I just love this show for this show. So if you guys find any point in my assessment where you're like, Rama, that actually was from the pages in the comic books, or like, no, that character is not, original to the show. It's actually from, volume this or issue this, year this, Doom Patrol comic book. If you come across anything like that, you know, throughout this review, let me know in the comment section below. I am open to correction. Many of you in the past have told me like, "Hey, Rama," like for one, because I thought the Beard Hunter. I couldn't find information on the Beard Hunter, but then one of you guys said, "Hey, the Beard Hunter was actually a character from the comic books, volume this, issue this," and I'm like, "Cool, thank you for that information," because I couldn't find it when I tried to. So, okay, so back to this episode. So Danny the Street says, "Hey, he's in the white space." I did not know what white space is, and then Flex Mentalos shows like, "Oh, the white space in between the images, illustrated images, or the drawings on comic books." So I'm like, "Oh, white space, got it, got it." And this leads to what I think is one of the most iconic scenes in this show. Now, this show, as you know, has had its share of bizarre moments. I mean, one oddity after the next, one weird stuff, after the next. It's just like, and then of course breaking the fourth wall on the part of Mr. Nobody, and then you saw a rat going into Robot Man, or the cockroach will be like, screaming, yelling into the sky, like laughing like a villain. So just when you thought that it couldn't get weirder, today it got weird and funny, even more than usual. Like, so Flex Mentalo, he flexes in order to get Doom Patrol into the white space. So Flex has to use his power to transport them or teleport them into the white space, and he gets it wrong the first time. He says something along the lines of like, and you, my fellow Doom Patrol fans who read the comic books can probably specify or clarify what he said. Something along the lines of like, "Oh, sorry, my bad. I was focusing on this muscle instead of that muscle." So what happens the first time around when he used the other muscle? Um, Instead of Doom Patrol going to the white space, Doom Patrol and the whole townspeople, on that Danny the Street town, they have orgasm. they they start coming like like somebody like is jerking them off. It takes like about, I want to say, a good minute or two. That whole scene where everybody in that town just has their O face, like, oh, and it's like, it seems like it's like the longest, um like somebody's giving them like the flicker, or the somebody flick their bean, or somebody give them hand jobs, but it's like the longest pleasurable orgasm. I know. And I tweeted like, orgasm has never been that funny. Well, and then I just remember like, well, not since Sally. If you remember the movie Harry, When Harry Met Sally, Meg Ryan's character faked an orgasm at the diner. That's one of the classic scenes in comedy cinema. And so in this one, man, freaking freaking Jane and Larry and Rita. I watched this episode on my laptop in Starbucks. And I was like, I started cracking up loudly, and everybody's like looking at me weird. At Starbucks, like, what are you watching? I was like, I can't show you. It's not kosher. Uh, um, Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of the actress who plays Rita Farr, April Bowlby. I think she's hot. I've had the hugest crush on her since Two and a Half Men. So, without getting too perverted, I just want to say that she looks really great. Her O face looks amazing. Her I was like, wow, she looks like she's really enjoying that thing. Um, and Crazy Jen, of course. I wanna, I can't wait because the thing is, I think Titans are already out on Blu-ray. Titan season one. I can't wait to get my hands on um Doom Patrol season one Blu-ray, and I hope they have featurettes or behind the scenes featurettes on the bonus features where we could see the making of this specific episode. I want to see uh, and I hope the cast members also, share or speak to the camera as to, you know, what it's like for them to act that whole scene out, the orgasm. And I want to know how many takes they did that. Oh my god. Oh, I love this show. So the second round, flexing after apologizing, flexing, like, okay, I'll get you the white space. In the white space, man, this is what's oh, this is what's so twisted about Mr. Nobody, man. Mr. Nobody never stops messing with your head. Now, early on in this episode, I kind of got ahead of myself here. Um, Early on in the episode, we see a bit of Mr. Nobody's background. Apparently, he tries to get a job with the Fellowship of Evil, um, but they chose not to hire him. Or they chose to let him go. I think they worked. I think he worked for them, and then they fire him. I'm not sure the specificity of it, but his girlfriend at the time finds that to be unacceptable. It's like, what? And then she's like, and she gets up and leaves, and she's like, she yells at him like, "You're a loser. I don't want to stay with a loser. You're just a nobody, and that's what you'll always be." Um, and you know what? When that happens, I kind of don't blame her. A part of me feels sorry for Mr. Nobody, It's like, oh man, why is she so harsh on? I think her name is Millie. Like, what man, she's such a bitch. Why? Like, be kind to your man. But at the same time, she she kind of has a point. I She makes it seem as if she's been with him forever and she's been patient enough to support him and to, like, follow him around, as he has these dreams. But time and time again it doesn't happen, and she's like, I can't stick around. um it's not good for me, and it's not good for a relationship if just one kind of like keeps hoping and hoping for the other to succeed. So I don't blame her on that aspect. But that background is necessary information to make sure that Mr. Nobody come across as a multidimensional character instead of just one dimensional. So now we know where his motivation is. And it's pretty, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's pretty ancient, when somebody feels like they've been belittled or made to feel insignificant. So he has to puff his chest up and, desperately tries to prove to the world. Um, and if you let those kinds of resentment consume you, then yeah, you can definitely turn bad. And that's where Mr. Nobody came from. Um, so Mr. Nobody keeps messing with your head, man. So in this white space, before they even get to the white space, Mr. Nobody kind of throws each of our hero into their previous timeline. Rita finds herself on her movie set. Larry finds himself back in the 50s with his family, wife and kids. Cliff finds himself on the RV, screwing the nanny again, and it's like, and Crazy Jane in the mental hospital. So they each of them is at a place and time or moment right before the thing happened in their lives that changed it. Like, so Larry, it was on the day right before he had to, test flight that plane, and Rita was on that day right before she falls into the lake and gets cursed, so on and so forth. And Cliff also, right before right before he totaled his car and his wife. So they were given this choice, like, hey, you can come back to this past. You've been wanting this all along, right? And Mr. Nobody was right. His temptation was kind of correct, because if we, my fellow Doom Patrol fans who have been following since season one, we would know that for a big chunk of the season, Larry, Rita, and Cliff, at the very least, they had been wanting to, like, oh man, if only I could go back and I would have been a better husband. Or Rita's like, oh, like I wanted my former glory. I was a star back then. Now I'm ugly. So, and Larry too. I was like, oh, so they a big chunk of this season has been about them wondering, could have, should have, would have. What if? What about? Um, so Mr. Nobody messing with their heads using that specific temptation is very, very effective and powerful. And the fact that they ultimately choose not to give into that temptation, not to stay in those timelines, goes to show their growth as characters, as a team. And I'm like, yeah, my reaction to that was like, yes, hell yeah. Larry, I think, says like, oh, we're a better team now than we were before. And he's right. And even freaking Rita's like, oh, fuck you, Mr. Nobody. And she goes out the tent. And in this white space, I love this part. This one, I rewound it many times or replayed it many times because I love the whole sequence, because they find Niles in it starts off with Rita choosing to narrate herself, and I'm like, oh, good on you, Rita, because that means you're taking control or taking power away from Mr. Nobody, because Mr. Nobody he's usually the one that does the narrating. Rita's like, nah, screw that, I'm gonna narrate myself. I love that. I love it. See, sometimes we as folks, we're like, I need somebody to narrate my life, to narrate where I'm going, please. And you know what? Sometimes we just gotta be like Rita Farr. It's like, hey, I am gonna be steering this wheel. Damn it. And I do a better job than whoever that I wish to happen, or narrating my life. Um, so that is cool. They find Niles or Chief, and Mr. Nobody shows up with his funny pants. It's like, oh, this is an inappropriate look. Okay, how about now? And he changes to Mr. Nobody. Very, very epic and glorious as a villain. And I gotta give credit to Alan Tudyk, man. Alan Tudyk is such a fantastic actor. I know I've said that before, and that goes without saying, but man, this is the role that he just fits like a glove. Like, this is Alan Tudyk as a villain. Usually Alan Tudyk's in other shows or other movies that he's been in, he's usually this kind of awkward guy or just goofy good guy, right? In this one, he's a villain, and it looks like he's having a ball with this role. He's just having the time of his life. When he changes into his Mr. Nobody appearance, man, he extends his arm like this, like, yeah, how about now? It's better, right? And I'm like, yeah, that looks so much better. Um, but Crazy Jane kind of messes with his head. This is what's awesome about this scene. This is why I keep replaying it, because not only the exchange between Mr. Nobody and Doom Patrol is funny, but Doom Patrol kind of flips it back and mess with Mr. Nobody's head, because Mr. Nobody has been messing with their heads all this time. So Doom Patrol's like, you know what, we're gonna mess with your head, and they find out about Mr. Nobody's girl in the past, and it's like, oh damn, you're doing this because you got dumped. Jeez, man, you're just basic. That's your motivation as a villain. Psh, you can't get more simple and generic than that. And then Mr. He gets under his skin. It's like, no, I'm not generic. I'm not basic. Oh my god, that whole sequence, the back and forth between Mr. Nobody and Doom Patrol in this scene in the white space. Oh, so well written, so irresistible. That's the word I'm looking for. Um, and it leads to Mr. Nobody getting blasted away by Cyborg, but turns out Mr. Nobody is still messing with their heads, because what happens next is that Mr. Nobody throws them, including Niles, into a time loop, and where Doom Patrol keeps dying, and it comes back to the same exact moment where they're about to go on a mission. So Niles keeps seeing his children die again and again and again, until Niles like, "Whoa, we're stuck in a time loop," and Niles like, "Oh, stop!" And he figures out that Cyborg is not Cyborg. Now, by this point, I forgot to mention to you that the second arc, while those things are happening, Cyborg was with his dad. He's with his dad in the hospital, and there are two big revelations here. Okay, spoiler alert. I told you I'm gonna be spilling some spoilers. Uh, his dad told Vic, Cyborg, hey, your mom actually was there burning with or next to you on the ground. After that lab accident, we actually could have saved your mom, but we chose to save you instead. And Niles, or Chief, was the guy who told Silas, hey, choose to save Vic. Uh, and Silas told Vic, it's like, hey, pretty much I would have done the same again, because that's what, your mom, my wife, would have wanted to save you. But Vic is angry because apparently Silas put it in his memory or in his head, this thought, as if Vic was the one responsible for his mother's death, as if that's the charred, burning body that he sees lying next on the ground next to him. All these years he's been thinking like, oh my god, I killed my mom. I'm the one who caused her death. Turns out no. Um, Turns out her mom could have been saved, or that. But it comes down to Silas only being able to save one of them instead of both of them. So Niles chipped in or chimed in. It's like, hey, save Vic, and that pisses off Vic or Cyborg, and it's totally understandable, man. That's a big, big revelation, right? It's a big reveal. Like, if you have been carrying this guilt, throughout your adult life, over the years, you beat yourself up. You beat yourself up over it. Um, oh, man, to find out that thing was manipulated all this time, I would be pissed off too. Now, speaking of manipulated, by the end of this episode, the other big reveal is when Niles told his children, Doom Patrol, that, hey, I was the guy who was responsible for what happened to you. You know, Cliff getting the accident, Rita getting that thing in the water, of course, Larry getting that radioactive energy thing, um, Crazy Jane as well. So, dun dun dun. Now, I'm curious. My fellow Doom Patrol fans who have read the comic books, tell me, was that how it went in the comic books? Or was this spin or twist, this reveal, was this something that the writers of the show come up with strictly just for the show? Let me know. I'm curious. But this turn of events is fascinating because now, how on earth will Doom Patrol defeat Mr. Nobody when they can't even trust the one person that they admire or they're supposed to be saving? Chief lied to them. Chief was responsible for Cyborg or for what happened to Cliff, for what happened to Larry. Now, we don't know yet until next week's episode the specifics of how the hand that or how he actually did or committed those things to the guys. um but now they can't trust him. They can't trust, and if there's no trust, there's no unity. There's no unity, there's no team. And if they're not a team, then they can't defeat Mr. Nobody, let alone Brotherhood of Evil or any other villains. And oh man, this is what I love about this show. It's I love the curveball that they threw at the end of it. And it's I know that Mr. Nobody and maybe many of us were expecting some superhero showdown, some fights, but I'm kind of glad that did not happen. I'm glad that it's still character driven because now, just when they're about to, like, oh man, come together as a team, this, truth, Niles pretty much throws a wrench, and was not surprised by it. Because if you remember the the show Umbrella Academy, I forgot the name of their leader, the one that Corey Fawn plays. Corey, I forget his name. But anyway, he also had a hand in the whole predicament about the babies being born on the same hour, whatnot, right? So for Niles to pull that off, that's not beyond belief or beyond surprise. He had the resources, and um, judging by the time that he spent with the cave girl, remember cave woman in the woods back in the World War One, obviously he has affinity or fondness for um, abnormal characters. Maybe he just like, hey, I wanted to have my own family of abnormals, you know, characters that the Bureau of Normalcy would find as abomination. Uh, Maybe that's his motivation. Who knows? We'll find out next week if they even reveal it at all or not. Um, it's also fascinating that this is episode 14 and we only have one episode left. And this monkey wrench that Niles just throws to the team makes it makes the effort to defeat Mr. Nobody one step further. No, you thought that they make a progress, so they've walked one step forward, and now it's one step backward again, or two steps backward, even, because now the trust is pretty much shattered. And Jerome's drama, oh my god, it's what a great episode, man. And eh, I love the production design. I just want to compliment the crew that made the Danny the Street so detailed, and it looks like small town USA. It looks like they just copied Smallville from the Smallville series. And the white space thing too. Oh man, so good. And of course, when they each of them goes back to their timeline, such great care in the or they really pay attention to every little detail in this episode. Love it, love it, love it. Um, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I can't theorize or speculate as to what's gonna happen next week, but it's the final episode of season one. I am so stoked. Can't wait. And that's it. That's my long rant. My long review of today's Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 14, Penultimate Patrol. And yes, let me know your thoughts down below. If you've seen the episode, do you agree or disagree with me? What do you think about the orgasm moment? Were you laughing as loudly as I was at the Starbucks when I watched the scene? and and are you gonna be sad now that Doom Patrol season one is coming to an end? Because I'm feeling bummed out about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/Rama Screen. God, Alan Tudyk is amazing. Let's rock this.